1 Parachute Battalion is the only full-time paratroop unit of the South African Army. It was established on 1 April 1961 with the formation of the Parachute Battalion. After 1998, this unit was renamed to Parachute Training Centre. It was the first battalion within 44 Parachute Brigade until 1999, when the brigade was downsized to 44 Parachute Regiment. The battalion has performed many active operations in battle, producing many highly decorated soldiers in the South African Border War from 1966 to 1989. The best-known action was the controversial Battle of Cassinga in 1978. The unit's nickname, Parachute, is a portmanteau derived from the words Parachute Battalion. History. In 1960, 15 volunteers from the SADF were sent to England, the majority to train as parachute instructors, some as parachute packers and one staff pilot in the dropping of paratroopers. These formed the nucleus of 1 Parachute Battalion at Tempe in Bloemfontein. The first paratroopers were permanent forcemen, but soon the training of citizen force paratroopers commenced. Members of 1 Parachute Battalion were the first S.A. Army men to see action after World War II, when in 1966 they participated with the South African Police against insurgents in SWA. In 1966, members of 1 Parachute Battalion participated in the first action in the war in Southwest Africa during a heli-borne assault on an insurgent base. Thereafter, they were involved in operations in SWA, Namibia, Angola, Zambia, Mozambique and Rhodesia, and elsewhere on an almost constant basis for over 20 years. 1 Parachute BN was organized as follows: Permanent Force, BNHQ, HQ COI and A and B COIs. Citizen Force, C COI Cape Town, D COI Durban, E COI Pretoria and F COI Johannesburg. Further battalions were added: 2 Parabn in 1971 and 3 Parabn in 1977. In 1974 and 1975, 1 Parachute Battalion operated along the Angolan border with SWA. Along the Caprivi Strip, a platoon jumped near Luiana, Angola to relieve a group of Bushmen trapped by SWAPO force, and 3 platoons joined Operation Savannah at Sadar Bandera the day after the airport was taken. The 2 platoons withdrew in February-March Operation Savannah during the Angolan Civil War in July 1975, when one string of 1 Parachute Battalion were flown to Ondangwa and travelled by Unimog to Ruacana on the northern border of SWA at Ruacana and Santa Clara in Angola to relieve 2 Portuguese communities trapped by the MPLA. With the coming of 44 Parachute Brigade in April 1978, under the leadership of Brigadier M.J. Du Plessis and Colonel Jan Breitenbach, a co-founder of the brigade, it became a powerful force. The first large airborne exercise of the Parachute Battalion Group took place in 1987 in the northwestern Transvaal. With the eventual disbanding of 44 Parachute Brigade, its full-time personnel were moved to Bloemfontein and incorporated into the 1 Parachute Battalion Group. In 1986, the unit embarked on its first Halo HAHO course in Bloemfontein. This would enable the troops to drop into enemy territory from aircraft following commercial routes. In 2001, battalion personnel formed the spearhead of the South African Protection Support Detachment deploying to Burundi. In 2012, 1 Parachute Battalion participated in the South African military assistance to the Central African Republic operation. where the unit suffered 13 killed, with 27 injured and 1 missing in action in an ambush conducted by Sayaka rebels. In 2014 it was announced that 1 Parachute Battalion would receive battle honors for this operation. In 2013, the battalion contributed 1 company, under command of Major Vic Vrolik, to the FIB, which fought a number of engagements in the DRC. Training. 1 Parachute Battalion as the sole military parachute training institution in South Africa, with its parachute school being responsible for all training. The school has had only 4 fatalities in its existence. 1 Parachute Battalion is a full-time unit which, in addition to parachute training, also conducts force training to national servicemen inducted into the unit and other units in the South African Army. The average age ranges in the mid-20s. The selection and training of today's paratroops remains exceptionally rigorous to ensure that the standard of combat proficiency is retained at a high level. Generally, members of 1 Parachute Battalion visit the various battalions each year early in the training cycle to look for volunteers. These must then pass a physical test at the unit prior to appearing before his selection board, which examines the character and motivation to give would-be members the endurance and the fitness they will need for operations in the harsher African conditions. The instructors of 44 Parachute Brigade place particular emphasis on basic physical training. Young men volunteering for service with the parachute forces first undergo a battery of medical tests, as stringent as that for flying personnel, before setting off on a 5 kilometers timed run. Before they can recover the breath, they tackle the second test, 200 meters run, in which each man carries a comrade on his back. The applicants are then put through various psychological and physical tests, though these are usually well within the reach of anyone with sufficient motivation and willpower. The real ordeal will then start. For 4 long months, the recruits' bats will endure forced marches, physical exercises, shooting sessions and inspections, all this barracked by the screams of their eagle-eyed instructors. The South African paratroop instructors, like the British counterparts, enforce strict discipline. For example, trainees always take the grooming kit along with them on 30 kilometers marches, and at dawn, when back at the base with aching bones, devote whatever little time is left they have to rest to spit and polish. Those who are accepted are then transferred to 1 para, where they first complete the normal 3-month basic training course, with some differences: PT 3 times a day, no walking in camp under any circumstances, and a 10 to 15 kilometers run to end each day. 20 kilometers runs carrying tarpaulins, car tires attached to the candidates by a long rope, or the dreaded 25 kilograms concrete slab that has to be carried everywhere the candidate goes. Some 10 to 20% drop out during this phase, returning to their original units. All this builds up to what is called the COA camp. It is 3 days of the ultimate challenge of physical and psychological endurance. The would-be paratroops get a 24-hour ration pack or RAP pack for the duration of the selection. During these days, they are given several tasks to perform in an allocated time. Several 20 to 30 kilometers night marches, runs with 25 kilograms burgans, boxing, 75 kilograms stretch, a run over 20 kilometers, digging trenches, and the carrying of artillery canisters over 10 kilometers during a timed run are just a few of the tasks that has to be completed. On top of all this, the candidates are out in the African bush with no showers, hot meals or beds after each grueling day. Each year, the sequence of what tests will be done to get the strongest out of the wannabes changes, so it comes as quite a surprise each year. Due to lack of sleep, hunger and extreme physical tasks, many of the men give up. After all the above tests, the few remaining soldiers head back to camp where they have to complete an obstacle course called the Elephant. Some foreign elite soldiers claim this to be one of the hardest bone-breaking obstacle courses ever. Again, this is a timed exercise, which has to be completed several times. It is also done with full battle kit. Again, the instructors are looking for any hesitant students during the high obstacles and underwater swim through a narrow tunnel. At the end of the Elephant, several more students drop out due to injury and not completing the course in the required time. At this point, the course has been completed. However, there is always the bad surprise, which has historically become part of the selection phase. After a 6-month ordeal, the selected few make the 12 jumps required to obtain the wings. During this time, the chances of being disqualified are still very high. This phase is followed by some advanced individual training, during which such subjects as advanced driving, demolitions, tactics and patrolling, unarmed combat, survival skills, escape and evasion, aspects of guerrilla warfare, tracking, raiding, counter-insurgency operations, fast rope skills, ambush and anti-ambush techniques and foreign weapons and techniques are covered. Their instructors, however, always find that something is left to be desired with the inspection, which invariably follows. To harden the muscles, trainees are made to carry a telegraph pole for 2 days, at a rate of 20 kilometers daily. Back at base, the marble, a stone weighing about 25 kilograms which the soldier must carry wherever he goes, is used as a substitute for the same purpose. The detailed training program is listed below. Basic training: 10 weeks musketry, fieldcraft, drill, map reading, buddy aid. Physical training, very important. Parachute qualification training: 5 weeks. Parachute selection: 2 weeks. Running 9 kilometers and more with boots. Running up to 21 kilometers with logs. Battle PT with logs, concrete blocks and rifles. Route marches of 14 kilometers with full kit. Boxing, soccer, wrestling, rugby with kataras, ball. Calisthenic exercises. Qualification tests: 3.2 kilometers with full kit in 18 minutes, 40 shuttle runs in 90 seconds, 200 meters fireman's lift with full kit, climb a 6-meter rope, climb over a 2-meter wall with full kit, 50 push-ups without resting, 67 sit-ups in 2 minutes, 120 squat kicks without resting. Parachute training: 3 weeks following successful parachute selection. Ground training in hangar, jumping from APCAs, jumping from Dakota aircraft, jumping from C-130, C-160 Transall aircraft. Jumping includes day and night jumps, with and without kit, using standard and steerable parachutes. A total of 8 jumps must be completed before the sought-after paratrooper wings are awarded. Current day selection and training for the physical portion of the parachute course. Until 1991, the physical portion of the parachute qualifying course was 2 weeks, but due to national service being shortened to 1 year, the Army had a need to change and make the training more compact and fast-paced. However, some of the older paratroops still do physical training courses to ensure that standards do not drop. Individual training: 8 weeks. Platoon weapons, battlecraft, specialist training: section leaders, rifleman, mortarman, anti-tank gunner, machine gunner, signal intelligence NCO, medical orderly, driver, clerk, parachute Pakistan man. Conventional warfare training: 10 weeks. Advance, defense, withdrawal, cooperation with armored, artillery, air force, etc. Airborne operations including air assault, battle handling on subunit level, counter-insurgency training: 9 weeks. Bush warfare techniques, reaction force operations, Specialized Air Operations, Airborne Raids, Active Operational Duty. Once a paratroop is fully trained, he takes part in the normal operational and training activities of the unit. Other training specialist parachute and other training courses include Pathfinder training, basic fast roping, rappelling skills, fast roping, rappelling dispatchers, fast roping, rappelling instructors, static line dispatchers course, basic parachute instructors course, advanced static line jump course, basic free fall course, free fall dispatchers course, free fall instructors course, advanced free fall course, advanced free fall instructors course, drop zone safety officers course, parachute packing and checking course, tandem parachuting, leadership,